This is part 2 on how to track a PPP loan inside QuickBooks Online. On the first part of this video, I showed you how to enter the proceeds into QuickBooks Online, to enter the loan as a liability, and then also how to make the adjustment for forgiveness when it comes time to get the loan forgiven. What I didn't cover in the first video is how to track the expenses during the 8-week period from the time you got funded. So I'll put the link in the description below somewhere if you want to see that part 1 first. So now let's talk about how to track the expenses in QuickBooks Online. Quick summary: payroll expenses to include gross payroll, state employer taxes, health insurance, and retirement benefits are all part of payroll costs. We need to find out what our payroll costs are. These need to be at least 75% of the total loan proceeds in order to qualify for full forgiveness. And then the total amount of payroll costs, those components that we talked about, those are going to be added to the forgiveness once you total everything that you spend during that 8-week period. On top of that, you can get up to 25% forgiveness on the total proceeds for rent and utilities. So there's many theories out there about how to put together the transactions inside QuickBooks Online. The biggest one is people want to enter those expenses into a different category where they originally belong to. In my opinion, you shouldn't do that. You should enter your payroll expenses, your rent, your utilities exactly where they belong, and then you run a filtered profit and loss and balance sheet to just get that piece of information. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the balance sheet real quick. I'm going to click on balance sheet. Just going to inspect my total loan amount right here. So it looks like I got funded $52,000. I'm going to click on that just so I can see the transaction. And then this was a deposit for $52,000 on May 4th. And I put in the description myself, and you can see how I did that in the other video. I put just a quick note so I know what is that 75% threshold and what is that 25% threshold. So in my mind, I know $39,000 at least need to come from payroll costs, and a maximum of $13,000 could come from rent and utilities. So I just keep that information sort of written, jot down somewhere. Doesn't really matter too much for the day-to-day bookkeeping. So I'm going to go ahead and enter all my expenditures as normal. I'm not going to do anything special. No classes, no special notes, no tags, no different account, no sub-accounts. I'm going to book everything in the right category. Then I'm going to run a report from the funding date, which is May 4th, up to 8 weeks later. So I'm going to go ahead and run a profit and loss report. So just go into reports and then profit and loss. And then here on the date range, I'm going to go ahead and pick the funding date, which is 05/04/2020. And then I'm going to pick 8 weeks after that. So let's start here, 05/04/2020. Click on the calendar, and then we go from the 8 weeks. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So June 29th would be the following Monday after my 8-week period ends from the funding date. So I want my report to basically end on June 28th. So I'm going to click on that and then click on report. Then what I want to do is I want to click on customize, and I'm going to only select the accounts that count towards forgiveness. So I'm going to click on the filter menu, or the filter option. Then I'm going to click on distribution account. Then I'm going to click on the drop down, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to only select those categories that apply for forgiveness. Now this also requires that during the data entry process, you have payroll expenses, gross wages as its own category. You would have to have payroll taxes where you separate federal taxes versus state and local taxes, because state and local taxes are the only thing that is deductible. So we're going to come down here and look for our payroll expense account. Where is it? There we go, payroll expenses. I'm going to pick that. Then I'm going to go down and look for SUTA, which is a state unemployment tax or any sort of state payroll taxes. Then I'm going to look for, let's see what else we got here, health insurance. That's also part of the PPP forgiveness. I don't have any 401k or retirement benefits or pension. So we'll skip that. And I think that's it. Okay, so now let's move on to rent. So let's look for rent and then utilities. So again, it's also really important that you have recorded those rents, those utilities, those payroll taxes in the right category for this to work. So we're going to create a custom report that only shows those things. And then we click on Run Report. And there you go. There's a filter report for the 8-week period of all the expenses that qualify for forgiveness. Now, the other thing I would do, just to get a little bit better visual, is I would see this report by week or by month. So let's start by week to see what that looks like. So we'll do by week and then click on Run Report. This will give me a really good visual in terms of what are all my expenses in a weekly basis. So we can see our health insurance, our payroll, our gross payroll expenses. We have our SUTA, state unemployment taxes. We have utilities. We have rent. The other thing I would recommend is 8-week period is kind of a strange look period. I would also break it down by month just to kind of see that you have everything in terms of 2 months worth. So let me change that from weeks into months. And then I click on Run Report. And now we see basically 2 months during the 8-week period. So I'm looking at my payroll expenses. They're pretty consistent over the 2-month period. So that's good. I got 2 utility expenses, which is pretty consistent, which is good. But look, one of my rents is missing. So unfortunately, because depending on how you pay your rent, that 8-week period might not fall into exactly 2 rent payments. So what I might want to do is find one of those month's rent payments and just move it to that date within the 8-week period so it shows up on this report. So let me look for that rent bill. Here we go. Let me pull this out. And I'm just going to move it a couple of days in the future. This is not cheating. This is just logic, right? So 8 weeks worth should give you about 2 months worth of rent. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. So anything that's rent, utilities, anything that may fall into that period, I would personally recommend to change those dates. So let's do the filtering again. So 05/04/2020 through 05/28. Sorry, 06/28/2020. Let's go to Customize Report, Filter. Let's do a distribution account. And let's pick those accounts again. So that was health insurance, payroll expenses, SUTA, rent, utilities, and pension, which we don't have. And then we'll click on Run Report. Okay, and then let's click on Run Report. Okay, good. Okay, let's break this down by month now. See if now we get both rent payments in there. Go to Run, and perfect. See, now I got my 2 rent payments. So at this point, I would save this report, save customization, and we're going to call this PPP Forgiveness Expenses or something like that. Okay, so now we got our custom report that we're going to give to our bank. Now we probably want to click on the net income amount on that 44,000 and get a detailed report. That way our bank, if they're asking for receipts or a general ledger version of this, you can have that report in there. So you can save that report or print that report as well. But the most important thing is, okay, how do I book the forgiveness now? Now, the total amount that's going to be forgiven, according to this, is going to be $44,446. Actually, let me go back to the summary report and see if my payroll threshold held. So if I look at just payroll, which is going to be health insurance plus payroll, it looks like, yeah, we barely made it over that 39,000 minimum. So we should get full forgiveness on the payroll up to that dollar amount. And the rent and utility expenses added together doesn't add up to 13,000. So we're good. So we just take the whole $44,000. That's how much we apply for forgiveness in our bank. Hopefully our bank accepts it. And then we make a journal entry against that loan. So let me copy that number, 44,446.19. So now we do a journal entry. Let's do a journal entry here. And we'll book that journal entry on the end of the 8-week period. So we'll do 06/28/2020. And then we're going to remove that journal entry number. Let's put loan, and let's pull up that loan. And we're going to reduce that loan by debiting by that dollar amount, 44,446.19. And then we create a new account called non-taxable PPP Forgiven. Okay. Based on the date of this video, the rule is that this amount is non-taxable income. So we'll create it as another income category, not regular income, but other income. We'll put it there as other income. I will put it here under tax exempt interest. I guess that's fine. And then we click save and close. And that should reduce our liability by that $44,000. We're going to have to pay back the balance of that. And then this should show up in my other income account. Let me go ahead and click on save. And then I'll X out of that. I'll run a regular profit and loss report again. Let's do a profit and loss. And let's do here all dates and click on run report. And we should see all the way in the bottom my non-taxable PPP forgiven. So that's perfect. Now let's run a balance sheet real quick and see what that loan looks like. Let's do all dates and click on run report. And then now it should be the balance. So this is what we have to pay back because that wasn't amount to the forgiven amount, right? Because we didn't have enough expenditures to get the whole thing forgiven. So hopefully this will give you some food for thought. It's really not that complicated. I think people honestly are overthinking the whole PPP expense tracking. I think you should book all your expenses as normal and create a custom report to then figure out what the forgiveness amount is. Then wait to see how much your bank actually forgives and then make an adjustment against that. Now, if Congress determines and the IRS determines that those expenses are not tax deductible, then just give that information to your tax person so they can make an adjustment at the end of the year for that. But I wouldn't mess with QuickBooks so you can have real financial statements, comparable financial statements. And it's okay to have the non-taxable income under other income. Just make sure that the user of the reports knows that that's just not going to count against taxes. Anyway, hope that was helpful. And I have a webinar coming up on May 28th, where I'm going to talk about the forgiveness process, the law and the process with the banks in detail. It's going to be a paid webinar. So if you are interested in learning how to go through the forgiveness process for your business or maybe for your clients, if you happen to be an accounting professional, go ahead and join that. It's going to be 2 to 3 hour webinar. I'm going to go into great detail on the law and what I think should be our best approach to try to get as much of our PPP loans forgiven through the banks. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.